So hi everybody, so thanks to be here today for the SES Challenges webinar. So I'm Mathilde Gobet and I'm in charge of the international part of ActinSpace and I'm assisting by Pierre Duchesne, who is working with me. So today we are receiving for our joy SES, so 6 experts from SES, and they will present you their challenges and talk to you about their society. So for the little story, SES is for the first time our silver sponsor just behind the Airbus. So we are so glad of it and so glad to have SES on board for this 4th edition of ActinSpace. So first I'm going to introduce ActinSpace, the aim and the concept, and after I will give the floor to the SES experts to present their challenges, and then at the end of the session we will realize a Q&A session to answer all your questions. So please feel free to ask it on the question box, and we will start and we will answer at the end of the session. So I'm just going to switch off my camera to start the presentation in order to avoid all the connectivity trouble. Thank you. So to start, so ActinSpace have been created by CNES in 2014 and is co-organized by ESA. And they decided to give the operation part to the Aerospace Valley, where we are working, I and Pierre. So since its creation, 35 startups were created and are still supported by our 16 international partners since the first edition. So for the little timeline, so the first edition in 2014 was just a French edition, and we have 12 cities from France. But the first international edition was in 2016. We had 12 countries, 24 cities, 900 participants, and 14 startups were created. So for the second edition in 2018, we had 32 countries, 54 cities, 2,000 participants, and 18 startups were created. And for the first edition, 2020 edition, we are waiting for 50 countries, almost 100 cities, 4,000 participants, and we hope that more than 35 startups will be created. So the goal of ActinSpace is during 24 hours, the teams come together and work on challenges based on technology or data from space in order to invent the tomorrow new services and innovation technologies. So ActinSpace goal is also to dream to be a future entrepreneur, is also to highlight the space sector and its daily impact on our society, to contribute to the socio-economic growth and startup creation. The order is also to make the cooperation and collaboration between the space and non-space company and make patent licensing more accessible to everyone. So concerning the patent, for the little history, where did the SES Challenges come from? So CNES had a lot of patents, space patents, hidden for a long way, and they didn't know what to do with this. So they decided to make them accessible to all the ActinSpace participants. They decided to develop the space and non-space sector ideas, and Airbus just joined ActinSpace as a sponsor, and they decided to contribute to this patent with data, and that's how the challenges were created. So the real bonus of ActinSpace is by joining the event, you will have a complete access to the CNES patent. And if your goal is to create and develop the startup, you will have access also after the competition. So now I'm going to give the floor to Hélène, which is our first SES expert, to present what is SES.
Thank you, Mathilde. Just checking so the audio is okay. Everyone can hear me? Right, thank you. My name is Ellen Kimber. I work in technology product development at SES, based here in Luxembourg. And it is an honor to be here to be a part of ActinSpace together with you all to here today. Today we will present the SES Challenges with the team. But first, I want to tell you about SES. And at SES, we all have a shared purpose, and it is to do the extraordinary in space so that we can deliver amazing experiences everywhere on Earth. That means we are driven by an ambitious agenda, and we are confident in our ability to achieve greater success even when we collaborate with our partners and customers. We are passionate about space and the value it brings to our lives on Earth. We are small on Earth, but with space, our reach is infinite. We are part of ActinSpace because we are looking for new stars and creativity that will change the world. We want to bridge new space technologies, data, patents, and infrastructures to launch startups into all our areas of our daily lives. Pierre, could you please show the video?
Okay, Ellen, you have the control to switch your slide.
All right, thank you. I made the click.
You can try with the keyboard. Okay.
All right.
So now.
Okay.
Yes. So we are trying to put the video. It's charging.
We are all explorers, adventurers, and authors of our own story. Stories we create, experience, and pass on. That's why at SES, we believe in a world where each of us has the freedom to take that story wherever we want it to go. From every rig, to every home, and every screen. Unlimited by geography, by technology, and even gravity. We do the extraordinary in space to deliver amazing experiences, shared experiences, everywhere on Earth. Because when everyone is empowered with the world's most valuable content and connectivity, billions of stories suddenly have infinite possibilities. Take your story anywhere with SES.
Okay, so Ellen, you should have the control.
All right, we are doing this today because we want to engage with the innovation ecosystem, where we find like-minded thinkers, and we are convinced that the innovation in this collective, innovative ecosystem will find the power to find the great solutions. Together with ActinSpace, we give you the why. With our 4 challenges, we give you an idea of the what. Now it is your mission to tell us the how. Because people don't buy what we do, they buy why we do it. That's why we are here, to invent new businesses with people that believe in the same things we believe in. And now on to Violeta with our first challenge.
Hello, everyone. My name is Violeta Kovaeva. I'm with Fleet Development in SES, and the challenge I'll be bringing to you today is SATCOM for Good. Do I have control of the slide already?
Yes, you have.
Do it with the keyboard, Violeta, maybe. It will working better.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying. Okay, so the challenge that I'll be talking to you today about is SATCOM for Good. And I want to start by saying a few words on why we're doing this. You see, the disparities and inequality in the world remain very high today. And even though there has been some tangible progress in the last years, but now on top of all the inequality problems still being tremendously big, COVID-19 pandemic didn't just accentuate it, it actually reversed the equity improvement trends that we have seen in the last years. And sadly, we're now facing the first increase in global poverty in over 20 years. And why should we care? Well, apart from the obvious ethical component of not leaving anyone behind, as humans, our well-being is intertwined with each other, and inequality limits our progress as humankind and even threatens peace. This is just some of the reasons why it's crucially important for us to address it. And another natural question is, why satellite? And why are we talking about this at ActinSpace event? Well, satellite has this unique infrastructure superpowers. We can go anywhere and we can scale seamlessly. What I mean is that even with just one satellite, we can reach millions of people, even in the most remote locations, be that, let's say, mountain regions, disaster hit areas, remote islands, whatever it is, we can reach it. And so we at SES want to put these superpowers to work for good, even more than what we are doing today. We want to get closer to a more equal world for us all. And this is exactly where we need your creativity, your drive for a better world, and your help in breakthrough ideas on how we can use those superpowers to tackle unequal access to quality finance, healthcare, and education. So yes, we picked those three problems for the challenge. And what I mean by those is, let's have a look at those one by one. We'll start with finance. So for us in the Western world, making a payment at the supermarket, let's say, or logging a transaction on our online bank account is something we do without really thinking much. It's a given, we have access to it. But this is not the case for everybody in the world. 1.7 billion people do not have a bank account. While we know that financial inclusion is crucial in escaping poverty. The key question to you here is, how could you use the superpower of satellites, maybe even meshed up with some other technology, to support or redefine the future use of the financial tools, or maybe even eradicate poverty? While, of course, all this needs to be sustained by a robust business model. So we talked about 1.7 billion people not having a bank account, but imagine a whole different scale where half of the global population is not covered by essential health services. And if you think about it for a second, half of the world population, that's every second person. And of course, again, COVID-19 pandemic has interrupted the progress that we have been making up to now. So for example, the immunization programs have been interrupted, and overall healthcare disruptions reverse the improvement trends that we have seen. And the question here is, how can we enable healthcare even in the most remote locations? Is there a way to offer real benefits to doctors or researchers working in those remote locations, or maybe patients that otherwise would be unable to receive any healthcare? And the third item that we would like to cover today is education. Having education can mean the difference between having opportunities and not. Education is, well, it's obviously not the only thing, but it's really foundation for equality in the society. It's one of the most powerful tools we can give someone to break the vicious circle of poverty. And again, COVID-19 brought a big setback in progress that's been made. A lot of students are out of school, and a lot of you know this very well due to COVID. But if many of us in the Western world have a possibility to continue education remotely, for at least 500 million students, remote learning is not an option. And all in all, COVID-19 made this already unequal world even more divided, put more boundaries, put more barriers. The key idea behind this challenge is we can use satellites to take down at least some of those barriers. So what do we want you to do? We would like you to come up with a concept business model tackling finance, education, or healthcare problems that we talked about. And I'd like to leave you with some items to consider, some food for thought. Think about what would the value chain look like? What is the service and business model flow? Are there some tangential beneficiaries to your solution? Think of making it scalable as well. Bring the positive impact to more people. Think of how you can make it economically self-sustainable or maybe even profitable. On the infrastructure side, make the most out of existing GEO and MEO satellite fleet of SES, but also add other technologies, be that space or ground, if you see it needed for your solution. And also think of the cultural component here. Can your solution also bring the benefit of building bridges between cultures, countries, nations, religions, whatever it is, and who could be interested in this and maybe even financially support your solution? So this is certainly a social innovation challenge at its heart. And what comes with this is tremendous potential for impact on millions of lives, but also a tremendous opportunity for you to learn, because social innovation requires 360-degree vision like no other. You need to combine, yes, the technologies, the know-how, the creativity, of course, all of this, but often you also need the support of the government, the private sector, a lot of stakeholders and players to make this into something that is sustainable long-term. So that would be it for my part, and I'm really looking forward to seeing and hearing your ideas. Thanks for the attention, and I will hand over to Warren.
Warren, okay, you should have the control with the keyboard.
All right, thank you, Violeta. So, my name is Warren Gellert. I also work at SES. I work in Department Modeling and Simulation, where we model end-to-end satellite communication architectures to figure out how to build out the best satellite communication infrastructure for the future. Today, I'm super excited to present a very ambitious challenge, and it is to solve a problem that we have all experienced. The hint is in the title. Anyone else have bad reception? We have all cursed in very creative ways whenever we're on our phone or we're on our laptop and we lose reception. It is one of the many first world problems we encounter. So, in short, the problem here we're trying to solve is internet connectivity directly to the handheld, so directly to my phone, no satellite communication antenna in the middle, anywhere on the planet. And when I mean anywhere, I mean anywhere. In the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, on the South Pole, in New York City, and on Fifth Avenue, anywhere. The why, I don't think I need to explain it so much. We've all experienced it. Even today, I live in The Hague in the Netherlands. When I travel by car somewhere, and I'm in a video call, my connection sometimes drops. Now, if I drive further distances in more rural areas, that problem only becomes worse. And then a little bit about the how, on a framework on how we are thinking about it, and formulate how we want you to innovate and make this a reality. So that's really cool. For all the engineers on the call, it must be a dream, because here we're going to work to extend the terrestrial mobile network, what we're using, the 4G and future 5G systems in the cities we live in, using satellites and using UAVs, or how we call it here, high altitude platforms, which I have renamed here with HAPS. So we'll start first with a little use case. So on the screen, you see a landscape which is representing Sydney in Australia. On the left bottom, you see the skyline. On the left top, you see some forest, some agriculture land. On the right top, you see some sea, and it will have varying levels of coverage. So when people are traveling, yeah, you will sometimes lose your connection. So look at that iPhone 12 user. So iPhone 12 was announced, was it 1-2 weeks ago, with the support for the latest 5G frequencies. The point here is it needs to directly use the same frequencies, the same antennas that are in existing equipment of our, of our mobile phones. So he's you can see that I'm assuming that iPhone 12 user is not in reach of a 5G tower. But imagine that in this future solution, there is a flying platform, which basically acts as a flying antenna, which extends the mobile connectivity network. So I called it HAPS1, which basically connects the iPhone 12 user to the 5G tower, because it's flying at a certain altitude that can connect the both. So that's one use case. Now let's go to the second one. So here you see somebody with an iPad, or it doesn't even necessarily need to be a human. It can be some kind of sensor. I mean, our machines need connectivity as well. They're actually growing much faster than humans. And both of them are also, imagine they're not in range of a cell phone tower, but again, a different type of UAV could reach both of them. And actually, even that same platform can't see a normal cell phone tower. So this is where the satellites come into place, where the satellites act as, you could call it, the network backbone. So the iPad goes first to the plane connects to the satellite connects to the internet back on the ground through traditional SATCOM equipment. Now the last use case that I'm not sure is loading is kind of a combination. Yes, here it is. So I said it can be a flying platform. It doesn't need to be a plane. It can be a balloon. Here I put the Google balloon picture here. Imagine a user is somewhere out far in the ocean, and the balloon sees it, and then you can see the dotted line between HAPS1 and HAPS3. If they're in range, it could take that route. If they're not in range, it goes over the satellite system. Anyway, a bit of an explanation of how the global kind of technical infrastructure looks like here, and here with the use case for Sydney. But imagine that all over the world to cover anywhere where there is demand. So, all right, we talked a bit about the potential, how a technical solution could look like, but in the challenge, that's not our main, that's not the main part of the challenge. The challenge is threefold. It's to size the network. So how many of such planes shall we need? How many of, let's call it, iPhones or sensors are out there in the world that we need to connect in this way? What is the market potential of that? How much would people be willing to pay for this? And put that all together into a business plan. Because technically, on paper, I believe we can solve all the technical problems to make something like this happen. In reality, it will only happen if we can support it with a proper business plan. So here, some assumptions. The most important one, directly to the iPhone or directly to your device. There cannot be the requirement for a new one. And you can assume that the entire system acts as a wireless mesh network, that everything is dynamic, and if it's in range, it can use it. If it's not in range, it cannot use it. So to summarize the challenge, size the network, evaluate the market potential, and make a business plan. And with that, I think we have a very, very exciting problem to solve, where many big players in the world are trying to solve pieces of this, and we want you to look at this holistically from a business perspective. And with that, thank you very much, and I will hand over the microphone to my dear colleague, Matteo.
Okay, Matteo, you have the control now.
Thank you. Okay, everyone. Thank you, Warren. Thank you, Violeta. Thank you, Alan. Hi, everybody. I'm Matteo, and I fly satellites as a job. In fact, I work in the satellite operation team, specifically in flight dynamics here at SES. So taking care of the satellite fleet that we have. For this challenge, which is called Are You Dead or Alive? I'm going to tell you a story. And the story, it starts like this. Imagine you're in an office. It's a Friday afternoon. Everything seems smooth. You're packing up, getting ready to go away. Even better, next week you're on vacation. So really getting the feeling of, okay, for once, maybe I just go through it, close up, set my out of office, and go home. Except that, as often happens in these situations, something comes up. So what comes up in this case is an alarm. You have an alarm of a close approach. So you're monitoring your satellites and something starts beeping, or you get an alert on your phone, or someone calls you, or things like this. So in this case, the close approach alarm. What it means that an object, could be a satellite, a debris, could be a piece of rocket, could be something else. It's coming too close to one of our assets. Our assets being one of our satellites. So you receive a certain amount of information with it. As example, you can see how bad is the situation. The miss distance, it's very low. The probability is very high, so the situation is serious. And you get some information about what this other object could be. It might have an ID, a name, a status, when is the last information acquired, or something like this. This might tell you something or not. Now, you're in a situation like this in which you need to make a decision. The decision is very, very important in this case. The threat is very real. The threat is real, the risk is extremely high, not only for SES. Imagine this is a multi-million asset, your satellite, that could be completely killed by a collision, but it's not only for us, right? And of course, this impacts our customers and everything else. But this is for the entire space environment. Things that are up in space, they don't really like to come back to Earth. So if you break something up, it tends to stay there and create more debris. You have to make a decision still, right? And what you want to do. One idea would be, okay, should I move my satellites? But then there might be business reasons on how to do that. Maybe there are very important activities scheduled to happen on this. And if you change this schedule or something like this, you might screw it up and you might have to delay everything. So it's important that you have the best available information in order to make a decision. What would happen, I think you could actually do, is to look for informations, right? There are various ways of doing it, quite manual. You put on your investigative hat and you start Googling stuff and you see, okay, is this satellite a real satellite? Is it a piece of rocket? Is it something else? Was it launched recently? Is it still alive? Is not alive? Something like this. You get all the history of informations that you have. Somehow you have a history of the orbit of this object. You can look in the past and see, is this thing coming up slowly, is coming up fast, is, I don't know, is a regular pattern in it or something like this. You can infer something. Or as sometimes happens, maybe you just ask your colleague and say, okay, do you know this object? Did it pop up before or something like this? And maybe as it happens, someone knows it and you can move forward. You know who operates it. You can make a phone call, ask them, okay, is it real? Is it not real? Is it good information or not? Now, the end of the story is exactly this, right? In this case, as it turned up, this object was actually another satellite, was a neighboring satellite, and was a simple misalignment with the latest informations available. So we pick up the phone, we call them, we realize, okay, yeah, all fine, all good. We have a maneuver moving away, you don't need to do anything. Everybody's happy, and it's like this. However, as you can infer, this is not really I mean, it's a manageable situation, but it's not a sustainable situation. This is fine as long as you have a few satellites, you know everybody, you have a lot of expertise and everything. Imagine you're a new entrant into space, or imagine you have a lot of satellites, you're swamped with this type of alarms. You clearly can't take off can't take so much time to find out what to do. So this brings me to what's your challenge? Your challenge is exactly to build a product, could be a user portal, could be something there. I don't really mind what it's gonna look like, that's your job, but it should be as simple as possible for the user. Me, the user, some other controllers around the world, some other operators around the world, just enter a search criteria, could be a satellite ID, could be a name, and gets all the information I mentioned. So in all this information, so I can make an informed decision on what I'm supposed to do now, right? I receive an alert, I check out, okay, and I decide what to do next. So in the challenge descriptions, we have a few of the questions we would like you to ask. So a few of the results you should show us when we do the search. So if the object is active or not, if it's did a maneuver recently, who is the owner of the operator, things like this. There is what else. In order to help you with this, we will give you a history of space objects. So it's a catalog basically of orbit over time of various space objects. This is freely available data. We will give it to you, and also some little tools to analyze it. But of course, you are free to use every other information. And I did in my example, right? You Google stuff. So yeah, feel free to do that. The key point here is that you help us be better citizens of space and improve space situational awareness with some automation. Now, this is about the challenge. I would like to close with some final remarks. The situation right now, as I mentioned, it's kind of manageable. So for us, with a fleet of 70+ satellites, some in geostationary orbit, some in medium Earth orbit, with the team we have, the expertise we have, we can still manage it. But as you might know, space objects are growing all the time. There is more stuff up there. There will be more stuff up there. There will be much more players, much more users, much more operators. And in this situation, you can see that it's quick to become unsustainable. So please help us be better citizens, help us improve space situational awareness, and help us really avoid a catastrophic event which will make it unusable for everybody. Thank you very much. And with this, I'll hand over to Francesco for the next challenge.
Okay, you should have the control with the keyboard, Francesco.
Thank you, Matteo. Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Francesco, and I have a very cool job in SES. I build satellites. And this challenge is, when I imagined, it was a kind of connection between my actual job, satellites, and my old job, which was imagining future space missions. So have you ever wondered how spacecrafts who are deep in space nowadays, like the Voyager, call home, call Earth? Well, this happens through something called the deep space networks. So the deep space network is basically a set of very large antennas, about 70 meters in diameter, and they are scattered all over around Earth. But actually, to make a complete network, you just need 3 antennas at 120 degrees of distance each, more or less. And so these large antennas, they are the ones that allow us to pick up very faint signals coming from deep space. There is one thing though, these networks of antennas was built in the 60s. There was another kind of technology at the time. There were different requirements. Spacecraft didn't need to send high resolution images from Mars, or we didn't have people permanently in space that needed to call home, right? So when it was built, it was okay. And this network nowadays works only with few kilobytes per second of reception. Now imagine in this moment in your house, you have probably 100 megabits or more of internet connection. That calling from space is few kilobits. It's like being back 20 years in the internet era, right? So since we are going to plan, and we will go on more in different planets, hopefully soon on the moon, then on Mars, and then farther into space, we need something that is going to allow for the astronauts while on Mars to call home. No one is going to want to be for months distant from their families without being able to video call. And on top of that, we're going to have a lot of missions in which we are going to teleoperate robots and rovers on planetary surfaces on other objects. And to do that, we need a good stream of data in upload and download. So if you accept this challenge, your task is to imagine a commercial deep space network. And I want to underline commercial, because in the future, space is probably going to be commercial run. So people are going to buy your deep space network. And this deep space network will enable space settlers on different planets to get in touch with our planet while we go farther into the solar system. So your deep space network must be scalable. What do I mean? For this task, I want you to imagine 3 phases. We are on Earth right now, but in phase 1, we will be on the moon with a moon base. Farther, we will go on Mars with a Mars base. And then in a 3rd phase, we'll go to Titan and over probably beyond. So your mission is basically to do the following. We will give you a plan of the SES fleet in space at the moment. We have about 60 satellites in orbit, in MEO, GEO orbit, and I want you to reuse what you have. So I want you to incorporate the SES fleet into your new commercial deep space network. Then I want you to add the missing pieces. So I want you to imagine what kind of space assets or ground assets, so I mean satellites or antennas, do you need to deploy your deep space network? And what size? I mean, if you use satellites, do you need CubeSats? Will you need small sats? Will you need traditional full-size satellites? And where will you place them? In which orbit? In which point in space? So how do you interconnect our assets with new assets, and how this link of satellites and this network is going to work? I want you to choose your technology. So imagine, are you going to use the actual technology of today, or you're going to develop new technology? I don't know, lasers. Is it going to work with laser communication? That's something you have to think about. I want you to make it scalable. What do I mean? We said we have 3 phases for this challenge: Moon, Mars, Titan, and beyond. How do you make it bigger while we go farther and farther from Earth? And I want you to make it a business, because this is, remember, a commercial deep space network. SpaceX is going to come to you and is going to say, hey, I want connectivity to have my guys on Mars calling home. So I want you to make it a business. I want you to make a very high level business model, nothing really precise, but I want you to think about it, and I want you to show how it is going to evolve during the 3 phases. So in a first phase, for example, when we're going to be near Earth on the moon, we're going to have some kind of activities on the moon. I don't know, we start extraction of moon resources, and this will enable a set of different activities and commercial endeavors around the moon. But then we venture to Mars, there's going to be something else which is going to be there, and you have to imagine what it is and how this is going to affect your business model. So it's a very interesting challenge. I love imagining what's coming in the future. And guys, I really hope you will accept this challenge. Let's see if it goes to the last slide. Is it not going? Okay, let's try this. Okay, so I really hope you join this challenge. And if you have any questions, just feel free to just ping me on LinkedIn. You find my handle down there in the slide. And having said that, I handled this to Bruno for the final remarks.
Okay, Bruno, you should have the control. just click one more time. I think it's good. One more.
Yeah. All right. Hi, everyone. Bruno here. I've been with SES for a little more than 2 years. It's a fantastic company. Awesome colleagues, like you could see previously. And I'm on a mission to build a new, and I'll come back to that in a minute. So we listened to Violeta and Warren and think about it for a minute. These guys, they strategize and they plan our fleet for the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Then we listen also to Francesco. So that man builds satellite as a job. Then we listen to Matteo. That man flies satellites for a living. How cool is that? Really a great company. So I hope you liked our challenges. I hope you're going to choose one of them for the ActinSpace. And thanks very much for listening. Oh, but wait, there's one more thing. There's one more thing. Yeah, so I'm super excited to present to you L192. L192 is our freshly launched innovation lab powered by SES. We got some internal communication no later than yesterday, actually, so pretty new. It's L192 is about building the new, so new business models, new customer experiences, new ways of thinking. Our ultimate goal is actually to incubate ideas and to develop the next $100 million business for SES. And to maximize our chance of success, we believe in co-creation. Co-creation with our customers, understand a big fat problem to solve and co-create together, but also co-create with the innovation ecosystem, with the startups, with you. Because we don't think we know it all, and we believe that open innovation will 10x our impact. So you see, ActinSpace is not just a one-off for us. We take it very seriously. It's not a com exercise. We really believe into the impact of ActinSpace, but it's also part of a bigger plan. So our challenge owners have been and will be during and after the event. They will super engage and super passionate. And again, so ActinSpace is part of a bigger plan. And now, yeah, we are on the slide. Sorry. So now there is no one more thing. Again, this is really the wrap up of the session. So just to put it in short, with SATCOM for good, you're going to move the needle. You're going to make the world a better place. No less than that. With Are You Dead or Alive? You're going to safeguard the world from catastrophes. With Anyone Else Have Bad Reception? You're gonna bring connectivity everywhere. But we heard that before. Here it's really everywhere. And with Hello, Do You See Me? You're gonna have the big dream of interplanetary communication. And if I can move on to the next slide, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, so I only have one piece of advice. First of all, take one of our 4 challenges, obviously. But the one piece of advice I want to give to you is go bold. ActinSpace is a risk-free environment. I mean, you can really go bold with your ideas, with your business model, etc. If you don't do it here in a hackathon in ActinSpace, where else are you gonna do it? So with this, I'd like to thank you very much for your attention. And I think we're now open for question and answers, right?
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much to all of you for this amazing intervention. So now we are going to go to the Q&A session. So we already have some questions. So
the first one is, which fields of view coverage for the HAPS? I mean, how many possible square meters to deliver this 5G connectivity?
Yeah, I can take that. First of all, thank you very much for the question. It's a good question. And my answer is going to be a little bit widely interpretable. I'm not going to give you an answer in like degrees or square kilometers or anything like this. I will say you can make an assumption on what you think would be a good solution for this. Now, you already have some constraints here, right? Planes like don't really go higher than 20, 25 kilometers in altitude. If you put them lower to Earth, the link budget for telecommunication becomes less. You can assume something. You don't have to do a very complicated technical trade-off, but choose something that is reasonable based on the information that you can find. Now, also, don't reinvent the wheel. When you Google about high-altitude platforms, you will find companies having documented some information and having shared their logic. And if you feel that logic is sound, you can say, okay, we fly them at 15 kilometers, and then you can do the math on what the field of view and the coverage is of that. But to reiterate, spend not too much time on the technical solution, make assumptions and do some, let's call it, back of the envelope analysis to see that it's plausible, and then focus on the end-to-end business case. Because you have a lot of things to size: number of satellites, addressable market, number of iPhones, number of IoT sensors, how many of these balloons or airplanes are you going to need? How long can they fly for continuously? Do they need to refuel? Do they stay in the air for months? It's impossible to get a technical, detailed answer on all of them. Make assumptions, but make them plausible with the brains and the experience and education that you have available. Thank you.
Okay, so another question. Thank you so much for the answer.
We will work on the challenge, are you dead or alive? We would like to have more information on the type of data that SES will make available for the challenges: TLE, ephemeris, masses, altitudes. Otherwise, is it expected to have the team will implement algorithmic solution, or is the data processing logic sufficient?
Okay, first of all, thanks a lot for saying that you take the challenge. That's awesome news. Now, for the data, yeah, it will be TLE, because TLEs are, at least a lot of those are freely available information, so we can publicly reshare them with you. So we have a catalog of historical data that we have, so it's all freely available data. So that we will share with you, and on top of it, we can give you some scripts, which somehow it's a TLE propagator. So it's some just Python scripts, which allows you to take a TLE and propagate it in the future or in the past for a certain amount of time. So this will help you potentially answer some of the questions. Now, what you'd expect from the team, for me, you have the questions. It's expected that you convince us that you can answer them, right? Now, if you have a prototype, some algorithmic prototype or an MVP of sort, that will be great, but it's not mandatory. There is no mandatory requirement. There are questions to answer, and we would like you to show us how we're going to do that. We'll give you some data which we think could be used to answer these questions, and every other data you have right to use, go ahead with it. But that's the idea. Yeah.
Okay, so another question. Thank you so much. So we just have no question, but great presentation, and thank you very much for this amazing webinar.
For the SATCOM for Good challenge, can I pick one or two problems to address, or should it be all three?
Thanks for the question. So you can definitely choose to address either or. You can choose to address one, two, or even all three of the problems in your solution. This is really up to you. Thanks for the question.
Okay, so another one.
For the who else has a bad connection challenges, what is a high altitude platform? Can you give examples?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Examples are the Google Loon balloon. Examples are, you can say a plane is a high altitude platform without a pilot, because that's going to be too expensive. Balloon planes, are there any other things that fly? Maybe UFOs. The point is, it's a generic term for pretty much anything that flies in the air, so probably up to 25 kilometers altitude. It's a pretty wide definition, but in my understanding, planes or balloons would be the solutions I'm aware of. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, so for now we didn't have any questions, so please feel free to ask it. We can wait. So just for your information, next week we are going to receive the ESA with us to present their challenges, and you will find the replay of this webinar on the YouTube channel of Connect by CNES. So you will be able to consult it again if you love this webinar. So maybe we can wait just 2 or 3 minutes more to see if you have other questions. Okay, so one more question and then.
For the general questions, will SES or L192 incubate a promising project post-ActinSpace?
So I guess the question is for me. So the question is, will we incubate an idea that emerges from ActinSpace?
Will SES or L192 incubate a promising project post-ActinSpace?
So open for discussion. We don't have a formal, external incubation program whatsoever. But I just want to share one example. So last year we were part of a local hackathon here in Luxembourg, and the winner, one of the winners of our challenge, they got a sort of incubation or mentorship program, and we helped. So it was a team of 3, and they had a job. They were not students. They had a job, and they wanted to become startuppers. They wanted to create their own startups. So for a period of a little bit more than 3 months, I think we stretched it to 4 months. We helped them to think about the desirability question, so how to get in the market, understand if they are really solving a real problem. We helped them to look at the feasibility, although they were really strong on the technical side, and we helped them to create or look at the viability of their business model. And we also gave them access to internal experts, so they could ask questions, they could show their prototype to our team. So we're not a formal incubator in the classic sense, but we are open to collaborate. Like I said, it's all about co-creation. So co-creation with our customers, but also co-creation with the innovation ecosystem. Cool.
Okay, then thank you so much to all of you for your presentation, for your attention, for the participant, for the audience, and we hope that many participants will choose your challenges, but I don't have any doubt of it. So thanks all of you for the good vibes that you gave us today with your presentation, and then we will end this session. So thank you so much, SES, and thank you to all of you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.